Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Rubelefsky. So, we're going to go ahead and start with our pen testing fundamentals room from TryHackMe. So, what I want to do is basically just go through the junior penetration tester pathway on TryHackMe. And, like I mentioned before, I'm also a beginner. So, going through this will actually catch me up on the fundamentals, which I know, but it can't hurt to go back. So I am an IT support engineer working at a MSP, which is a managed service provider in New York City. So basically, I have my hands on everything. I do level 1 support. I'm actually getting into the cybersecurity aspect now. I've been working there for about 7 months. I have 3 months in the IT field. And every day I'm just learning more and more. And I'm also pursuing my bachelor's at WGU to get my bachelor's in cybersecurity and information assurance. So we will go ahead and start. We'll start with task 1. What's a penetration test? So basically, a penetration test that's what ethical hacking is. You're hacking into a company. You have permission. You're finding the vulnerabilities. You're going to exploit those vulnerabilities, and then you're going to make a report. You're going to go back to the company and say, okay, this is what we got when we scanned the servers. This is what's vulnerable. This is what you could patch. And that's the gist of it. That's a penetration test, really. And later on we'll go into different kinds of pen tests. So we'll move on to penetration testing ethics. So there's 3 types of hackers. There's white hat, gray hat, and black hat. So white hat would be, an ethical hacker, someone that is getting paid to do it. They have permission to perform the pen test and scan for vulnerabilities and go through all the systems, and they're not trying to do anything malicious. A gray hat hacker is someone that has the skills and they, they'll hack someone. They'll hack someone bad, I'll say. Alright, an example would be Jim Browning on YouTube. He basically hacks these scammers and, exposes their information, exposes where they are, exposes who they are. It's not necessarily legal, but at the same time, it's not. He's not like stealing any money or anything. He's exposing scammers. So that would be, a gray hat hacker. And a black hat hacker would be me hacking into a financial institution and stealing money and, doing all sorts of malicious activity. Now, when you are doing a penetration test, there's the ROE, the rules of engagement. Now, you have the three stages. You got the permission, you got the test scope, and the rules. So the permission is just, giving you explicit permission on what you can enumerate and what you can hack. Like here are the websites you could hack. Don't go to this website. Don't go to that website. And the test scope is the specific targets on what you can actually hack. And then the rules are, okay, you could use this tool, you could use that tool, you can't use this tool, and basically just the rules. And then we'll go down to the questions. You're given permission to perform a security audit on an organization. What type of hacker would you be? So like we mentioned before, white hat hacker are the hackers that have permission. Those are the ethical hackers. So let's go ahead and submit, and that is correct. And the next question, you attack an organization and steal their data. What type of hacker would you be? So if you're doing something malicious, you're going to be a black hat hacker. What document defines how a penetration test engagement should be carried out? And if we just go up here, we just discussed this, the rules of engagement. And we'll go over to task 3, pen testing methodologies. Okay. All right, so you got the 5 stages of a pen test. This isn't hard and fast, but this is what you're going to want to do when performing a pen test. So you're going to start with info gathering. You're going to move on to enumeration and scanning. You're going to move on to exploitation, then privilege escalation, and after that, post-exploitation. So info gathering, would be going on Facebook, seeing who works at a certain company, going on LinkedIn, Googling, finding emails, OSINT, which is open source intelligence, using all public information to find out everything you can about the company. And once you do the info gathering, you're going to move on to enumeration and scanning. So that would be using Nmap, scanning a server, seeing what's vulnerable, what's running, what's not running, what ports are open. And after you do all that, you'll move on to exploitation. You found the vulnerability. Now you're going to exploit it. And you are going to find out how you could break in. And from there, you're going to do privilege escalation, which would be, you got horizontal and vertical. So horizontal would be, okay, you log into someone's account. They're not an admin. You're going to move over to someone else's account that has the same permissions as this account. That's horizontal. Now, vertically, you would go from the account that you're in now to an administrator account, so you're moving up, so you can gain more access and more permissions. And then after you do privilege escalation, you'll do post-exploitation, which is, wrapping up the pen test. And you'll see what else you'll be able to get into. After you have all this information, you're going to report back on what you found, what vulnerabilities, what exploits, what's running, what could be patched, so on and so forth. And you're also going to cover your tracks, basically, so you don't show any signs that you were there. That's what covering your tracks means. And if we move on down, we'll go on to, the certain frameworks. We have the OSS TMM, Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual. So it focuses primarily on how apps communicate, telecommunications, through wireless networks, wired networks. And then we'll move on to the OWASP, which is the Open Web Application Security Project. So it's called the OWASP Top 10, and it changes every year, I believe. Now, the OWASP Top 10, we got cross-site scripting, SQL injection, deauthentication, or authentication bypass. I have to go back over what it is now, what the top 10 is now. But I will put a link in the description so you can check it out. And then once we move on, we got the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. And that stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. And it basically just provides guidelines on security controls for an organization, what each organization should go through to secure, their company. And then if we move on down here, we got the NCSC CAF. And CAF is just Cyber Assessment Framework. And it's just 14 principles used to assess the risk of cyber threats. And that is National Cybersecurity Center. And again, I'm going to put all the information in the description. I would suggest everyone goes through this themselves and reads, everything, because I'm just doing a brief overview. All right, what stage of penetration testing involves using publicly available information? So that would be information gathering. If you wanted to use a framework for pen testing telecommunications, what framework would you use? We're looking for the acronym here and not the full name. So if we go back up, the OSS TMM, that's what we use for communication. That's what it focuses primarily on app communication. So we'll type in OSS TMM, and that's correct. And then what framework focuses on the testing of web apps? So like we discussed, OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. All right, let's move on to task 4. And this is just going over certain types of boxes. So black box testing is when you don't have any knowledge whatsoever of the test beforehand. You have to go in, you have to find out everything by yourself. Gray box, a little bit. Okay, here's the IP address. That's all we're going to give you. Take it from there. White box, you know everything about it. You're basically just poking around and you're finding vulnerabilities with all the information that you have. And you have info about everything in the server or the application itself. So we'll move on to the questions. You're asked to test an application, but you're not given access to its source code. What testing process is this? So if we go up here, black box, you don't have any knowledge. So that's what it's going to be. Let's go ahead and test that. Black box, that's correct. And you're asked to test the website. You're giving access to the source code. What testing process is this? That's going to be white box, because you are given access. All right. And we'll move on to task 5. So this is going to be a little practice pen test. Acme has approached you for an assignment. They want you to carry out the stages of a pen test on their infrastructure. View the site by clicking the green button and follow the guided instructions to complete this exercise. So we'll go ahead and view the site. All right, so the rules of engagement. Let's go through the stages of a pen test for the Acme company. The stage of a pen test is where you define 3 primary objectives. Cycle through the tabs below to explore these. Permission. All right, we went through these before. Permissions, what you just have permission to test. The test scope is, here's the environments, and the rules are what you can use, what you can't use. So first things first, info gathering. The info gathering stage of an engagement is often undervalued. This stage involves using publicly accessible channels to collect intel on your target. All right, so you can see here they're using LinkedIn. Abby Feltwood, HR administrator at the Acme company. Here's the email address. Okay. So we'll go ahead and click next. Goal of the stage is to complete picture of your target. A pen tester will try to identify user accounts, machines, information gathered. All right, so this is the enumeration stage. We're going to go ahead and scan this IP address that's right here, 96, 37, 50, 151. We'll go ahead and copy and paste it in the scan there. And this would be Nmap. You would just do Nmap, the IP address, and what you want it to scan. We'll go into Nmap later on. Alright, so if we look at the Nmap scan, it says vulnerability scan for 96, 37, 50, 151. Service vulnerable, yes. Login, no. It's going to be more in depth than this, but we'll go ahead. Alright, the exploitation stage involves the knowledge from your enumeration to now identify and exploit vulnerabilities in any of their applications that are in the scope. For example, we enumerated Acme's website in stage 3 and found that it was vulnerable. We would now exploit this vulnerability, thus ethically hacking Acme's website. Alright, let's see. Let's go ahead and press next. Post-exploitation stage starts when you gain unauthorized access to a system. At this stage of engagement, your main goals will be to maintain access to the system and escalate your privileges from the system to a super user or administrator user. Systems are usually set up with normal users that don't have access to various sensitive files and functions. Gaining access to higher privileged users such as admins will allow you to perform actions that you wouldn't be able to as a normal user, such as reading sensitive files and gaining access to all programs in the system. Alright, so after doing this, you'll be extracting sensitive info from the system and attacking other components in the environment. So this would be a vertical privilege escalation. So going from a lower privilege user to an admin, that's vertical. And then the last thing is going to be the pen test report and clearing it up. So like we discussed earlier, you're just going to be covering your tracks and then reporting on what vulnerabilities there are, what's open, what's closed, what you did exactly, what you found. And then the last question is complete the pen test engagement against Acme's infrastructure, and we found the answer right here. So just go ahead and take that, copy it, paste it, and submit it. And again, I suggest that everyone go through this, read everything, and we will see you on the next video. If you can, like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. Have a great day.